Good. Call our meeting back into order. Thank you again for. Let's see. Before we start, I'm starting. We're coming out of executive session. We received legal advice and no action was taken. Just so we're all singing from the same sheet of music, just want to go through the format of today. We're going to have a maximum of 1 hour per applicant. And this is the format we're going to use. Public comment from non-committee members will be 5 minutes. The district staff recommendation or summary of the application will be 10 minutes. The applicant will have a 15-minute timed presentation. After that, we'll have 15 minutes for question and answers from the board. And then we will have a vote to either approve or deny the charter application at that point. First up is Jubilee Academy.
Good morning, Chairman Payne and board members. It's an exciting day for the South Carolina Public Charter School District, as we have the opportunity to hear from our 5 applicant committees. We will begin today with Jubilee Academy. I'm going to begin by reading the application process overview, which is located in the bottom half of page 2 in your recommendation report. Thankfully, we will only have to do this once, as it applies to all of the recommendation reports. Letters of intent to submit a charter application were submitted to the South Carolina Public Charter School District, Scpcsc, and the South Carolina Department of Education, SCDE, by November 1st, 2021. The Scpcsc hosted an all-day pre-applicant training to orient prospective applicants to the process and criteria outlined in the top half of page 2 of the recommendation report. In addition, informational materials were routinely circulated to prepare applicants for submission. Applicants were required to submit their applications to the Scpcsc and SCDE by February 1st, 2022. The Scpcsc authorizing team conducted a completeness check to ensure all required components were present in each application. A 9-member review team comprised of internal content leads and external model experts thoroughly reviewed each application. In March, all applicants participated in a capacity and review team. The Scpcsc staff reviewed and analyzed the totality of information based upon the application, review, interviews, and other pertinent information. The Scpcsc authorizing director and the deputy superintendent responsible for performance provide the following recommendations to the Scpcsc superintendent and with approval of the Board of Trustees. The introduction and recommendation. The staff recommends that the Scpcsc board conditionally approve the charter school application received from Jubilee Academy to serve grades pre-K through 5. The applicant's charter school submission proposed a pre-K through 12 model. Based upon the applicant's gradual growth plan, school will not begin serving 9th grade of his first year of high school until the 2032-2033 school year, the 10th year of this proposed term. Although many aspects related to the middle and high school were not addressed in the application, the Scpcsc staff is confident that the applicant shows the capacity for a pre-K through 5 educational program. The final staff recommendation is based on comprehensive and rigorous analysis of the educational, operational, and business plans of the proposed charter school, as well as on a review of the information provided as part of the interview and capacity exercise. The SCPCSD staff focused on the application and approval criteria in accordance with sections 5940-60 and 5940-70 of the South Carolina Public Charge, the South Carolina Charge Board. The mission of Jubilee Academy is to empower young people from under-resourced neighborhoods to become confident, productive, and principled members of society through excellence in academics. The school's proposed location is in Ridgeland, South Carolina, serving children in Jasper and Western Beaufort counties. The applicant proposes to open an exemplary charter school built on high expectations, modeled after and operated by the Meeting Street Schools. The application clearly provides evidence of need, citing data such as 86% of children in Jasper County arrive at kindergarten unprepared. And of the Jasper County students in 3rd through 8th grade, only 12.5% of them are at grade level in reading and 17.5% at grade level in math. The applicant has been building relationships within the community, conducting face-to-face interviews with Jasper County residents, mainly minority parents and guardians, attending community gatherings and church services. In addition, the survey was conducted receiving 163 responses. Survey respondents were representative of Jasper County demographics. 56% African American, 28% Hispanic, and 16% white. 69% of those parents who completed the survey said that more alternatives and choice in school are needed, and 64% said they were somewhat likely to extremely likely to choose a public charter school for their children. Jubilee Academy will be modeled closely after Meeting Street, Spartanburg. The demographics and enrollment are similar to Jubilee's expected population. 100% of Meeting Street Spartanburg students are considered low income, and 93% of minority students. Jubilee Academy also expects the same academic results as Meeting Street Spartanburg. Impressive assessment data from Meeting Street Spartanburg shows 90% math proficiency and 79% reading language arts proficiency. The application outlines a plan for slow growth, beginning with 2 classes of 24 students in 4K and 2 classes of 24 students in kindergarten, all staffed with 2 fully certified teachers. 1 grade level will be added each year. The applicant identifies support and service for students with disabilities, a plan to provide a continuum of services in a least restrictive environment, and an intention to serve students within an inclusion model. Also built into the curriculum are social, emotional learning, and character education programs. All students at Jubilee Academy will have access to extensive medical, nutritional, social and emotional supports, dental checkups, and vision screening services at school. The application details a wide range of community partnerships already in place ahead of the school's proposed opening, providing wraparound services. These include a free medical clinic which provides services including cardiology, diabetes treatment, prenatal and obstetrics care, dentistry, and free prescription medications. Other community partners include Real Champions, providing deep one-on-one mentoring throughout the school year. Bluffton Self-Help has been brought to Jasper County to support English language instruction, and the PASOS program, now in Jasper and Beaufort counties, provides home visits and supports the large Hispanic immigration population. Included in the application is a memorandum of agreement with Meeting Street Schools to be signed upon charter approval. Many pillars of the organizational plan are modeled after the successful practices of Meeting Street Schools. The applicant intends to form a governing board that is independent and comprised of some of the planning committee members and presents a clear understanding of fiduciary responsibilities and other board responsibilities associated with a publicly funded charter school. The applicant demonstrates strong beliefs in accepting all children, focusing on students who arrive at school facing risk factors such as low income, a single-parent household, racial or ethnic minority status, and native language or other literacy challenges. The applicant details the target demographic in relation to the intended area for recruitment, and a lengthy list of recruitment strategies is outlined in the application. The school expects and intends that its student population will approximate the demographics of current students in other public schools located in Jasper County, which are comprised of 48.9% African American, 41.7% Hispanic, 7.3% white, and 1.7% two or more races. The school will monitor the demographics and socioeconomic composition of its student population and has a plan in place in order to keep enrollment and balance with the school-age demographics in Jasper County. The applicant states that at no time will it allow student composition to violate state or federal civil rights requirements. The applicant intends to meet or exceed all standard practices regarding accounting and financial practices and will utilize both oversight and management from the already established Meeting Street School Central Finance Department. Jubilee Community Partnership Plan is to philanthropically absorb major startup expenditures. An interim facility will be provided at no cost, and the school will also be gifted land and a newly constructed permanent facility at no cost. Furthermore, Jubilee Community Partnership will equip the interim facility and subsequently the new facility, when constructed, to cover costs of IT infrastructure, books, curricula, furniture, play equipment, and the cost of staff training. The Jubilee Community Partnership is committed to donating up to $3 million for startup expenses during school planning year as soft funds and to bridge gaps in the year one program expenses before student reimbursements begin arriving. The applicant's mission and proposed charter school model align with our district's mission and vision in the strategic plan. Specifically, goals in the long-range plan to expand the network of charter schools to rural areas, authorizing high-quality schools, particularly within the I-95 corridor of opportunity. The final Scpcsc conclusion. In alignment with Section 59-40-60F of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act, the review team assessed the required components of the Jubilee Academy application, bringing emphasis in its review to the identification of the specific target population, the research-based evidence that proposed that the proposed program would meet the identified needs of the target population, and the school's overall capacity. Based on factors from a thorough analysis, this Scpcsc team has determined that the Jubilee Academy, operated by Meeting Street Schools, has the capacity to sufficiently implement the aligned pre-K-5 program with a likelihood of success. Overall, the applicant provides sufficient evidence that all key factors are in place for the effective establishment of a new school. So I welcome the Jubilee Academy to come up. There is no public comment for Jubilee Academy. So I welcome you to come up. Please say your name only, and then you may begin your 15-minute presentation.
Great. Good morning. My name is Carl Zinsmeister, and on behalf of all the supporters of the Jubilee Charter School, I want to thank the board for your time with us this morning and say that we really look forward to a long and productive relationship with this board and with this staff, who have been really awesome to date. So we appreciate that. I'm going to kick us off this morning with real sadness, honestly, by noting that in our region of South Carolina, parents are really, really dissatisfied right now with the public school options available to them. In a few minutes, I'm going to introduce a founding committee member who will give you some more details, but the short version is that a full-blown family revolt is underway right now in our area. This includes parent protests, circulation of petitions, serious calls for recalling the public school superintendent. Our parents desperately want better public school options. And this isn't just some short-term blip. As you heard from our application, only about 1/6 of all the children in Jasper County and Western Beaufort County are in grade level. 1/6. And it's been that way for generations. That's a tragedy, an absolute tragedy, and it needs to change. And obviously the problem needs to be attacked in a hard-headed way. Good intentions aren't going to get us anywhere. And we all know that a shiny new school isn't going to produce some kind of magical improvement. It has to be a school that's focused really intently on high standards and that is very clear-eyed about the burdens that are our kids are going to walk in the door with when they arrive in our classrooms. And it's equipped with a strong plan and most of all with really great human talent that's capable of overcoming serious obstacles because they are there. Now, there are four main reasons I want to quickly sketch for you that we're confident that we can deliver that kind of a transformative school. And first one is that we're not starting from scratch. It's really crucial to understand that we are bringing in a proven school operator who's already taking heavily at-risk South Carolina children and producing them, turning them into high performers. So we're not, offering you a paper plan or a theory. We're bringing an alliance with a network that currently serves 2,000 needy children every year with exemplary results. The second thing that gives us confidence is that we're starting very young. Some of you may have been puzzled why we went on and on in our application about the preschool that we're setting up as a separate entity with philanthropic funding. But for us, it's really a crucial part of it, of making the charter school work. We are opening the preschool this year. It's going to be a very, very innovative and interesting institution. And in essence, you can think of it as we are pre-enrolling our students. We're going to get a batch of kids into a preschool, which helps them love learning and helps them understand what a high expectation education looks like. So when they hit the charter school next year, they're not going to have heart attacks and wonder what hit them. We're really beginning that process with the philanthropic preschool, which will operate in parallel indefinitely as a feeder. The third thing we're doing that gives us some confidence is that we're keeping a really tight handle on quality control by starting with just those 2 early grades and then adding 1 grade per year. I'm impatient. I'd love to go faster than that, but we convinced ourselves that if you really want to find not okay teachers, but exceptional teachers, and if you really want to get in sync with your children and your families, and you really want to have an annual process that ratchets up the quality standards all across the curriculum and all across the school, you have to be patient. You have to work as an evolutionary process. So we're going to do that. And the fourth element that gives us some confidence is this wider philanthropic project that you heard described. The Jubilee Community Partnership is offering medical care and mentoring efforts and job assistance. We're doing some really interesting home visitation. We have a transportation plan. And as Kristen mentioned, we're going to provide millions of dollars worth of land and buildings. And the whole purpose of that is so that the charter school doesn't have a big albatross around its neck in terms of facility costs. As you know, a lot of charter schools carry heavy facility costs. Our charter school is going to be able to take 100% of its state funding and spend it on teaching. And we're going to expect them to be excellent as a result because we're going to take that burden off their plate. So this mix of supports, we're pretty sure is going to help thousands, literally thousands of local families change the whole trajectory of their child's life. And then when we're done, we're going to come back and talk to you again. And we would very much like to share this model with other parts of rural South Carolina, where there are tens of thousands of families who need some of these same better education options. So that's just a little background. And I'd like to hand over the microphone now to Ricardo Perry, one of our founding committee members, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the aspirations of parents in our area for better schools.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to present to you guys. About a month ago, I attended a community meeting in Jasper County where about 50 parents and community members were present to really express their dissatisfaction of the school district and some of the things that the school districts were doing. And what I saw was parents who were angry, parents who were hurt, parents who really just didn't know what solution was necessary to solve some of these problems. So I began conversations with some of the lead parents, a part of this effort, and began to help them organize and structure their grievances with the district. And some of the things that I've heard that they are challenged with was transportation issues down in Jasper County. Children are standing at the bus stop waiting for a bus to pick them up, and the bus never shows up. Teacher shortages, and I understand that across the state, many of our school districts have been dealing with bus shortages and teacher shortages, but it's been a very deep issue in Jasper County to the point that many of the students, because of COVID, fell behind. And even now, they are not able to attend school because of some of the issues that the school districts have not put in place to mitigate some of these problems. And so, fast forward a few weeks later, these parents decided to hold another community meeting just last night, and it was over 200 parents and community members that gathered at this church, again, to express how dissatisfied they are with the educational opportunity in Jasper County. And what I heard is they want other opportunities. They value their children's education, and they feel like the current system in place does not value that education. And so I'm really excited that Jubilee has an opportunity to bring options to a community where there's not a whole lot of options. There's a long road ahead for Jasper County and its school district, but that doesn't mean that our children has to suffer in the process. Thank you.
The next speaker is another member of our founding committee, Amy Duncan, who's going to tell you about how our preschool will set up the charter school for success.
Thanks, Carl. I'm actually going to represent myself and a friend of mine, Fred Jones. Fred is one of our board members, and he couldn't be here today. And let me tell you why he couldn't be here today. First of all, let me tell you what he does. Let me read this. He is the Senior Director of Public Policy and Advocacy for the Southern Education Foundation. His job description is to develop the organization's legislative agenda and work with policymakers and other key state influencers to advance evidence-based policies to achieve educational equity and opportunity in the southern states and beyond. How cool is that? I would love that to be my life's work. And we are so lucky to have him on board as a volunteer on our board for the Jubilee School. And the way I met Fred, about a year ago, I was at a preschool, and Fred showed up for a tour with his family, his wife and his 2 young children. And I'm touring Fred through the school, and he said to me, we came down from Walterboro, and I was on Hilton Head. And I said, Fred, that's like an hour and a half away. What are you doing here looking at a preschool? And he said, there are no quality schools for my children to attend that are close to home. And this is the closest one that I found so far. So Fred and his wife enrolled their son in my school. They enrolled their 1.5-year daughter in a daycare on Hilton Head that was a quality institution. And that family commuted 3 hours a day from Walterboro. They would drop their children off. Mom and dad would go to Starbucks and work remotely during the day. And then they'd pick up their children and put them back in car seats and drive them home for an hour and a half. Unfortunately, that model didn't work for the family, as you can imagine. A 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old and a 3-hour commute every day was not sustainable. So that's why Fred's not here today. He is at home, working from home in Walterboro, and he's also on childcare today because his wife was busy and couldn't do the childcare. So that's why we're here. There are inequities in opportunity for quality education, and I'm happy to be a part of this program. In my role as the preschool director for Jubilee, our goal is to create lifelong learners with a curiosity for the world around them and have them prepared to enter the Jubilee Charter School. And hopefully they're not going to have to drive more than 15 minutes to get to school. Thank you.
And now we're going to let you hear from 3 of our Meeting Street operating partners. I'm going to start with Meeting Street CEO Christopher Ruskowski. And after Christopher, you'll hear from Tamil Goodson, who is our principal designee. And finally, Kathy Dunleavy, who's a member of our founding committee and also an expert on their Spartanburg campus. So this will give you a taste of the high-performing model that we're excited to import into the Low Country.
Thank you, Carl. Good morning, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good Wednesday morning. When we were invited by the Jubilee Community Partnership and by this board that has now been formed to be part of this effort about 16 months ago, we at Meeting Street Schools were truly honored to be a part of it. Today, as Carl mentioned, we are serving 2,000 students across Charleston and Spartanburg, but when we started in 2008, when it was just a dream that our founders had, it was 40 kids in a church parking lot with a modular structure just getting started. And that school, a school of choice in the heart of downtown Charleston, was started as a private independent academy. And since then, we've developed several different models, 3 in Charleston, 2 that are public schools of innovation in North Charleston. And of course, the model that we're basing this model on, the school in Spartanburg, which also started as a school of choice, a private independent academy, and then morphed into kind of a hybrid model where we have a choice element and we have a neighborhood element in the Spartanburg community, which is why one of the reasons we thought that was a great analog. And so from 40 students, we've grown over time, over the last now 14 years, to serving 2,000 students in pre-K through 8. And I think as the board and as the staff identified, really our core competency that we've built has been in the pre-K and the early grades, early childhood literacy, early childhood numeracy, and why you see those results that we have been able to demonstrate in Spartanburg in the most recent SC Ready exam. Today, as we think about modeling after our Spartanburg campus, part of the reason why that is because of how they started small, their size. You heard Carl mention that. Part of that is because of the community they serve, and you heard Carl talk about that. And part of that is because of the results the Spartanburg campus has gotten. And so it is no surprise that when about a month and a half ago, we were identifying a founding principal for Jubilee Academy, that we were most inclined to have that person come from the Spartanburg campus. But not only does our founding principal, Tamil Goodson, come from the Spartanburg campus, but she also has the highest results, the highest student achievement results, not just in Spartanburg, but across the entirety of Meeting Street Schools. She currently manages our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teams there, and their results over the last several years, and even in our winter map data, were the best across all of the Meeting Street Schools network. And so as I introduced to you our founding principal, Tamil Goodson, not only is she, a product of South Carolina, a College of Charleston grad, someone who's taught in a traditional public school and a public school of innovation, but also someone who has the best academic results across all of Meeting Street Schools. So I introduced to you our founding principal, Tamil Goodson.
Good morning. I stand in front of you really proud and honored to be the future founding principal of Jubilee Charter School. As Christopher mentioned, I have been a part of this network for a really long time. And to stand in front of you to talk about it is great, but to actually live it is even better. I've lived through this as an educator there and also as a parent who has a 4K student who is thriving within our Meeting Street School. And the only regret that I have, it will mean everything for us today to grant the approval of this. As I said, I have lived this and I know that everything mentioned in the charter is proven to be true. Thank you for your time today.
Next, we'll have questions from the Board of Trustees. Just make this orderly, because we have our own time limit. Let's start with Cindy. She's virtual. Maybe let's start with her and just work our way around, and then I'll go last. Cindy, would you start?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I almost wish I could be 2 again and start at Jubilee. I wanted to quote Carl Zinsmeister from the capacity interview. This is what I knew they really meant it. when he said, "We are deadly earnest about this being a high-performing school." And we can see that down the line as each of you have spoken and lived out the message in the lives of children. I wanted to know a little bit, we perceive that your pre-K is a very significant off our chart part of your model. Can you tell us a little bit about the success of that? It's going to open this year. What does enrollment look like for that? Because that kind of indicates to us the interest that parents will have moving into Jubilee. And I also am very interested in the transportation issue. And third, I'd like to understand, I think it's a wonderful name, Jubilee. I know there's an Old Testament, a year of Jubilee. I'd like to know the genesis of that wonderful name.
Let's work backwards. The Jubilee is fun. I mean, the Jubilee is a biblical concept of, it's kind of like a super Sabbath. Every 50 years, you get this massive Sabbath where you get rest, you get rejuvenation, you get a chance to cancel old debts. If you're in slavery, you get freed. So it is a concept that has particular resonance among the African-American community, as some of you may know, but we just thought it was a beautiful way of signaling a positive future after some difficult prior years. The transportation piece, we're very excited about. Some of you may know the Lowcountry has this terrible spatial mismatch. All of our jobs are in the east, near Hilton Head, and all of our affordable housing is in the west, in Jasper County. And these make dreadful commutes of an hour, hour and a half for some of these folks. And it also makes it difficult to get to schools. The public options are slim to none. So it just frustrates me to no end that one of the ways charter schools all around the country are discriminated against is that they don't have the school bus options that conventional public schools do. And that's something we'd love to work on with you folks in the long run. But in the short run, we got parents that need to get their kids to school. So we're working hard on a very interesting innovation. It would be kind of what we're aiming to do is set up a number of small entrepreneurs in our area, train them to become bus operators themselves, and they'll run these as independent businesses. We'll set them up with help them purchasing the bus. We'll get them trained and get them CDL licenses. We will have parameters that they'll need to work within. And the deal we're going to make is you drive kids in the morning and the evening, and the rest of the day, that bus is yours to make a living with. You can do charters in Savannah. You can do weddings. You can do golf trips. And we hope to kill two birds with one stone, and that will make options for these children to get to school, while at the same time we set up a new business class in an area that could use that. On the preschool, we don't have time to get into that in detail, but I promise you it's going to be really exciting. One of the things we're doing is putting a huge emphasis on outdoor time, and I don't mean just recess, but I mean learning in the outdoors, getting dirty and really having a kinetic activity. I feel I have a special heart for young males today, little boys who are told they have to sit quietly with their hands folded and learn through books. Some boys and some girls don't do that easily. And we're trying to find alternate pathways to catch their imagination, to get them excited about learning through building and running around and assembling things. And so we have an extremely interesting custom curriculum we created. Amy's an absolutely stellar track record as a director, and we're really excited. The enrollment is just starting now. To answer your question, in fact, tomorrow I'm going to run around Jasper County all day with a bunch of leaflets in my van and go to churches and thrift stores and libraries and put up posters and hand out flyers. We're not biting off more than we can chew. We're going to start year one with just 50 children, but we're pretty confident we won't have trouble getting that lined up, and then we'll grow from there. Thank you for your interest.
I have one quick follow-up question. Can you tell us about your intentional engagement of parental involvement, which I know is a founding principle of even the beginning of the school, but how do you anticipate engaging parents?
Boy, you got good radar. That's absolutely the heart of our formula. And honestly, it's a pain in the neck. It would be much easier to just hand the car keys to the professional teachers and say, you do it. That's what a lot of the teachers want as well. And some of the parents think they want that. But our experience is that the really successful educational institutions create a strong marriage, a really powerful marriage between the home and the school. And it's hard, and it takes effort, and it takes extra money and extra time. The home visitations we're going to do are not easy. But we feel like that's the centerpiece of really breaking this cycle that we're inheriting. So give you an example, the preschool is a cooperative preschool. I don't know if that means anything to any of you, but a cooperative is a very special animal. The parents have to serve in the classroom twice a month as a co-teacher. I don't mean they come in and bring cupcakes. I mean, they are the co-teacher twice a month. That's a demand, that's a burden, it's a hard thing. But our experience is that those parents, once they're involved in that intimate way, that not just as an observer, but as a co-pilot with their children's education, it's radical, not only for the child who sees mom and dad putting out, but it's also radical for the parent who learns things from the professional teacher, who sees other parents in action. And we're gonna have that same kind of ethic in the charter school. We're gonna have a deep level of parent involvement, which we think will really fuel good things.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. John.
Thank you, and thank you for your application and for the description, especially, does that work?
Yeah, okay. And for the description of the community support demand for your operations, just
A
a
couple of quick questions. Can you just describe in 2 sentences for the layman what the Jubilee Community Partnership is, and if that is where the land and the building are coming from? Can you just describe that briefly, please?
Yes, the partnership was founded by a gentleman who owns a home and a business in our area, who is very successful in the New York finance industry, extremely generous individual, and he began the partnership really simply saying, the employees in my business are not thriving in the way that the clients in my business are, and I don't like that. What can we do about it? So we quickly realized that education is the centerpiece. We're doing a lot more than education, as you can see, but education is going to be the centerpiece. And yes, we think that in addition to lots of other little things, the biggest probably gift we can give to our schools is to set them up so they don't have that millstone of trying to meet the capital costs of their building. So we are in the process of acquiring land. We will provide an interim campus, and we will provide a permanent campus, all at no cost. Now, how we're going to do that, we got to figure out. We might charge rent and then rebate it back or grant it back. There are tax and other issues in this, but we are absolutely committed. Our donor is fully committed to making sure that these schools can focus on their teaching and not have to even think about a physical campus. And other donors are coming in over time, but that's what got us started.
thank you. So it's a philanthropy and it has C3 status and all of that.
Very much.
Okay, all right. Can you please tell me the name of your SEL curriculum?
So our social emotional learning curriculum, have been doing it for a couple of years. We're actually adopting a new one. And with the new one that we plan to adopt, we are requiring teachers to understand and learn how they operate socially. And then they will take that and gift it to our children so that they can have a social and emotional learning style.
Okay, so you don't have
One that you selected.
Ruler.
RULER? Okay. And then do you have a social studies and history curriculum for the upper grades when you get up to 5th grade already chosen?
We are right now, have some coming in from the state that we are trying out, and we will select the best one that we see. But as of now, we do not know what we will adopt, but we will look through them and adopt whichever one we feel fits best.
Okay, thanks. And then last question, can you please tell me what will be the specific responsibilities of the Southern Educational Foundation and their role in your operations, or if it's not operational?
What was it?
No official role. That's just Fred's day job, if you will. Fred, as you know, is a volunteer board member. That's a very, I have a background in philanthropy. That's a very august group. They basically inherited the mantle of the people who came to the South, the donors who came to the South and set up schools at a time when, especially African-American children, did not have schools in this area, the Rosenthal's of the world, the Easterns of the world, and they basically have continued that. But there is no official role other than just kind of a historical admiration for their mission.
Thanks.
I've heard several times that there were parental grievances, protests, revolts, things of that nature. I'm just curious as to what has led to that. Why are they unsatisfied?
Great question. The biggest issue is a lack of communication from the district. Several decisions have been made over the course of the last 3 months that has deeply impacted the families. One being going from a traditional school schedule to a modified school schedule where students are in school, they have a shorter summer. Another challenge that the school district, or the decision that they've made is deconsolidating the schools. And all of these decisions were made without fully getting the parents to provide feedback or input on these issues. And so, with the lack of communication, the lack of bus drivers, the lack of teachers in the classrooms, and then really poor communication on the superintendent's part, they've been trying to get meetings with her several times, and they haven't met with any success. So that's really where it's coming from. But when I'm talking about the straw that broke the camel's back, it was children having to wait several hours for a bus to come, and the bus never showed up.
So tell me about your plans of communication with your parents and how, I've heard about how parents are going to be involved in the K program, but what about the the elementary school?
Thank you for the question. I think critical to our model is that our parent academy work, and we have a parent academy that we have built and that we are building on in Spartanburg, starts with our families when they are families of pre-K form. And so we build from there. It's not a new thing that we then start in the upper grades. It's deep family relationships that start when they're parents of 4-year-olds. And I just think the regular engagement that we do with families, where we're talking to them on a weekly basis, and where our teachers and our administrators are just in constant communication, building upon those quarterly sessions that we do via our academy are the key to the success.
It's good to hear from all of you about Jubilee. I just have a question that may be condensed into one question. When you had your parent meetings, what did the demographics look like? And were you able to include any of those persons who are already teaching in the school system, or any administrators from the school system, to be able to see if you can get their support for the school?
Yes, ma'am. We, as Kristen mentioned, that the demographics were really the demographics of our area. We set up tables in front of the Piggly Wiggly, the dollar store, and just grabbed people who walk by with children. Mm-hmm. And those demographics are in our original application, but it was almost mirrored image of Jasper County in general. Your question is really interesting about engaging the existing school system. Let me say, first of all, that I pray every night that the Jasper County conventional public schools succeed. We need them to succeed. Those children need good options. And we at the Jubilee Community Partnership have tried to empower them ourselves. One of the first meetings we had was with the superintendent of schools that my donor came to, and we sat down and said, what can we do to make you more successful? And I have to tell you, with a broken heart, we pretty much got the back of the hand. We did not get much interest. To give you another example, during COVID, when COVID was really clearly hurting our local children, I went to Rochelle and I said, we'd like to help, and I'd like to make a deal with you. We will buy some very expensive educational software for your district and give you a seat license for every child that you are educating. And we think this could really help you, because it's cool software called Freckle that has a dashboard that teachers can get into, parents can get into, and kids can sign themselves into. And it feels like games, but it's not games. These are math and literacy developing tools. And when these kids were at home and really not having any other options, we thought Freckle could really be a powerful tool that the school district could use. The 2 local charter schools that we also made that same offer to, they took us up on it readily, happily, thrilled. Rochelle didn't answer our phone calls. I just could not get a meeting with her about this. So that's the kind of attitude we've unfortunately run into, is just we're not finding receptivity in conventional channels. Now, my door is always open. We want those kids and those teachers and that district to succeed. It would be insane to write them off or to say that we don't want them to get better. Honestly, I think the best favor we can do them, though, is to show some really successful model right next door and hope they'll copy some of it.
Randy?
First of all, I want to thank you for your commitment to serving children. That's very obvious in everything that you've given to us as board members and to our staff. I echo your concern about transportation. To ask anybody here, I beat on transportation awfully hard, and And I hope that we as a district and other authorizers as well can work with the General Assembly to provide some type of transportation for children across South Carolina at some point in the future before I roll off this board. The one question I do have concerns the 4 pillars, and I know you talk about the 4 pillars. If you could just briefly describe for me how you're going to implement those 4 pillars there at Jubilee.
Really great question. So one of the biggest pieces of our pillar is family partnership, which we have talked on heavily. And even with the others that we, even in the charter, said that we promised to commit to, that family partnership being the strongest. And as I mentioned when I spoke earlier, that is one of the reasons why I heavily feel like our students at Meeting Street Spartanburg have been able to thrive because of our family partnerships. And with that, we have been able to see children come in to our school and graduate our campus and get accepted into some of the best middle schools in the state. And we also continue to follow them throughout their journey, which is something that we plan to implement at Jubilee Charter School, because we know what we can give for them, it may not be the same when they leave. So the family partnership is something that we are committing to.
Could you speak some more about like the broad support services and those types of things that would be provided?
Sure, I can do this.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I believe you're talking about the early start, holistic approach.
Yes, correct, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think early start, we've always been committed to 2 years of pre-K, and you're seeing that continue here with Jubilee Nursery being the neighbor school, and then us taking the handoff at the pre-K 4 level. We use best-in-class early childhood curriculum, did 2 teachers in the classroom, and all the classroom outfitting. In terms of talents, right, which is the great teachers and leaders pillar, Meeting Street Schools has a dedicated network team that all they do all day is just recruitment and selection. And so we have a deep presence in social media. We have interview days on Fridays where teachers perform demo lessons and do demo data runs. And so that's actually been a challenge this spring because our interview process is about a 3 to 4 hour process. And a lot of our competing districts and charters are offering jobs on the spot. But we put folks through a 2 to 3 hour interview, which includes a demo lesson. And then for our leader process, that's a day-long interview. That's the process that Tamil went through to earn the job as founding principal. So a lot of focus on the front end. We have a new teacher academy, a deep induction program where those folks meet weekly. We do a lot of deep work with our academic deans, which are the folks that coach teachers on a weekly basis. Those are monthly meetings. And so a lot of those are network structures on the talent development side. And then I would just say we have a competitive compensation model. So not only are we kind of matching and exceeding local district rates, but we're also doing pay for performance for our teachers and our leaders that are serving the core content areas as well. So that's the talent bucket. And then the holistic approach, you heard Principal Goodson talk a little bit about our work around Ruler, partnership with Yale, and our previous work with Second Step, and some of the work that we do in the social emotional learning. We often have a health clinic on site at our schools, or certainly nurse practitioner services. You heard Carl talk about how the Jubilee Community Partnership will be building those types of things out. So we think the mental health, the physical health and wellness, and then the social emotional learning. Happy to speak about any of the 4 pillars in greater depth if need be.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, sir.
And I will be the last board member to ask a few questions. I want to tag on to what Jonathan asked earlier about Jubilee Community Partnership. Give me a little more explanation of who is that? Is that one person? Is it a group of people? Tell me a little bit about this partnership. I don't need any particular names. I just want to know the structure.
Gotcha. Very fair. First of all, it's new, right? We've been doing this about 2 years now, so it's evolving and growing. As I mentioned, it was started really as the vision of one donor who wanted to kick it off, and what we're starting to find now is that nothing succeeds like success. The preschool is going to open soon. We've got this wonderful partnership with Meeting Street, and other donors are getting interested. Big donors, South Carolina-based donors who realize, let's do something like this all across the state. So that's very exciting to us. But the donor is only it's kind of like the spark plug. I mean, these resources are not trivial. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars here that we're going to put up to get these schools launched. But honestly, that's not the most important part, and our donor would be the first to tell you that. And the other donors that are coming in now, the really important part is the partnership, the partnership word. We started really on realizing that we got to find the people in the area who already know the area, know the families, know the culture, and are doing great things, and bolster them and build them up. So when necessary, we are building from scratch, and we have alas concluded we need to build a charter school from scratch. I would have wished it wasn't the case, but that requires us to build something brand new. But I would say 3/4 or 80% of our work is just finding people that are already there, like Ricardo, who's running this amazing mentoring program, like Amy, who was already there as a preschool director, and just building them up. So that's where the partnership part comes in, is to find local champions and just give them tools.
Okay, hold on, I'm not finished. I lived in Beaufort County for 17 years. My children went to Bridges. Partly because I had a similar situation in Beaufort County that a lot of your people are in Jasper County. And I had enough of it. Fortunately, I had an opportunity. I was the first elected board chair at Bridges Preparatory Academy. So I've sat in your seat. I understand what it takes to run a school. I've done it. My question is, I want to focus on governance a little bit. I understand a partnership, and I understand donors with deep pockets. My concern, honestly, though, is who's going to lead this school? If the donor, God forbid, he dies, or he decides he wants to focus on something else, or he gets angry with the board and he says, you know what, I'm going to take my ball and go home. What's your plan B? I understand what if. I want to know what you will do if the ship all of a sudden runs into an iceberg.
Yep, great question. Well, the way we've structured this is there is no continuing support. Meeting Street knows that. Our charter application makes that clear. This is not a long-term deal. We're going to stand this place up and we're going to walk away. And the main part we're going to do to stand it up is to buy that land, which is in process, to build those buildings, which will be done in 2 or 3 years. And then it's all on the elected school board, like every other charter school, and the Meeting Street operators, who we have tremendous confidence in. And we are not going to hover. We are not going to be running this school. This is not our pet school. This is just a fire that we want to light. And we're going to light that fire, as I say, by providing the physical resource that's necessary that stops so many charter schools. You've got some great applications that just didn't have that building piece figured out. We thought that would be the best gift we could give. It's a one-time deal, and it's done in about 3 years. And God forbid our donor's going to die between now and then.
Well,
but, I think we're pretty safe there.
I'm glad to hear that. So this is a gift or a grant. This is not a loan.
No, this is not a loan.
Correct?
That's correct.
All right. Will the donor and or the partnership have any influence over the original board that's constituted?
No, like any other charter school, that is completely beyond our control and frankly beyond our desire to control. We want that to be a grassroots board that represents the parents and the teachers.
Okay. And just lastly, I believe I know the answer, but I want to hear your answer. The land and the building, that's obviously, when we were creating Bridges, we were scrambling looking for buildings, and we had original committee members who signed letters or signature loans or lines of credit at local banks to keep the cash flow. So you've got a tremendous gift here. Who's going to own the land and the building?
Again, that's all being figured out, and the lawyers are going to have a big say in that. Probably there will be we're setting up a 501c3 now that will probably hold the land, and then we will take advice as to whether it's best to just charge $1 a year rent, or whether it's best to charge a market rent that would then be covered by a grant. But that mechanism is, in our view, not the hardest part. I mean, we are committed to, as I say, tens of millions of dollars of support. Honestly, the hardest thing, John, for us has been to find the land. I mean, in the low country where everything's wet, we put a bid on a 160-acre piece of campus where we're going to hopefully put a preschool and a 700 child charter school and a transportation hub in between and lots of other charitable operations around the rim of that. It's just killing me to find a piece of land that big, and I'm praying the diligence works out because the wetlands issue is very difficult in our area.
Beaufort County itself is made up of over 100 islands.
Yeah.
So I get that. So
I heard a figure that 60% of the area in Beaufort County
water.
is underwater, part of
It's
it.
water.
So
It is.
It's an effort, but we're getting there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, board, thank you. Now we move on. We need a motion before we can discuss this and or vote on it. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I'll open it up for board discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
I think I can just say this to the board with the intentionality of this applicant hearing this, but to follow up on what Jonathan said in his question about curriculum, I am increasingly persuaded that in the name of public funds, the use of public funds, and the power of parents, out of respect for parents and the public, which funds our efforts, and the theme of transparency, I do hope that at some time in the near future that we can seriously look at a vote on transparency with regards to curriculums, so that our charter schools would have listed somewhere the link to their major textbooks, curriculum, so parents and the public would have an opportunity to peruse those and see if this is a good fit for their family and their student. I'm increasingly persuaded that is a very excellent thing to consider.
Thank you. Is there any other? Randy, you good? All right, having none, I will call the vote. The motion is to accept staff recommendation for the conditional approval of Jubilee. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Congratulations. We're going to do a board photo, group photo.
Congratulations. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get it. Let's get Thank you. I am not the one more than that. All right, let's go team. Team three. You're gonna get through that. Y'all come on, let's just get one. We're excited. Calls and calls. Yeah, we are.
John, make sure we can see. All right. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
One more, couple more.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Not more than.
Other questions?
Appreciate that. I know, okay, I should do all that.
All right. Move on. Next up is Board Academy application hearing description. Just so again, we're all on the same sheet of music, I'm just going to go over this just for time purposes. Public comments from non-committee members, if there is any, will be 5 minutes. Staff recommendation summary will be 10 minutes. The applicant will have 15 minutes. Then the board will have approximately 15 minutes, and then we will have a vote after that.
Okay, I'll begin with the introduction and recommendation. The staff recommends that the Scpcsc board conditionally approve the charter school application received from Fort Mill Academy based on successfully meeting enrollment targets as outlined in the conclusion of this report. Concerns remain regarding the proposed school's capacity to fulfill year 1 enrollment projections in grades K through 6. This recommendation is based on comprehensive and rigorous analyses of the educational, operational, and business plans of the proposed charter school, as well as on a review of the information provided as part of the interview and capacity exercise. The Scpcsc staff focused on the application and approval criteria in accordance with Section 59-40-60 and 70 of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act. The mission of Fort Mill Academy, FMA, is to teach children to become leaders in their communities and create collaborators, communicators, and change makers, both globally and locally, by empowering children to lead and learn, ensuring they meet their most significant potential. The applicant proposes to open a K-8 charter school, giving parents a choice in Fort Mill, which is located in York County. The first year of operation, the school plans to serve students in grades K through 6 with a projected enrollment of 554 students. The school model incorporates the workshop model and foreign language instruction in Spanish. The application provides evidence of community support and partnership. Concern about continued interest and maintained momentum through 2 charter application cycles makes it difficult to gauge whether the evidence supports the formation of the school with 554 students in its first year of operation. Year 1 enrollment relies on students in grades K through 6 already attending other local schools to transfer to a new school, FMA, where a significant amount of the day infuses another language. This enrollment hurdle supports the staff recommendation for conditional approval. The applicant's educational plan is well developed, utilizing data-driven instruction, the workshop model in ELA, and Spanish language focused programs woven throughout the related arts offerings. In addition, the model includes a school-wide progress monitoring plan designed to assist students in meeting state standards and provide relevant learning material. The application indicates that the appropriate certified and trained personnel will support students in poverty, English language learners, gifted and talented students, and homeless students. The school identifies support and service for students with disabilities and an adequate description of its plan to provide a continuum of services in the least restrictive environment. Overall, the applicant has a plan to create and meet school-wide goals aligned to the school's mission and values, and the applicant aligns its educational program with the strategies proposed to meet the goals. The applicant has plans for a year-round board recruitment process, demonstrating understanding of the importance of quality board nominations. The school's governing board will recruit and hire a principal, which the school identifies as the instructional leader and leader of all daily operations, as well as the person in charge of setting the climate and culture of the school. Recruitment of staff is outlined to include strategies used by the school leader with support of its charter support organization, CSO, Alliance Education Services, AES. The applicant has a transportation plan to meet the needs of its students and ensure transportation is not a barrier to enrollment. The planning committee has members with finance expert experience as well as school startup experience and support from AES. Eventually, a board finance committee will include a principal, treasurer, and a representative from AES. The financial projections have been made with conservative estimates. The financial projections have been made with conservative estimates. The budget narrative states that loans will be utilized to offset costs prior to the school's opening, and the applicant maintains it and its affiliates have established lines of credit for the school at sub-market rates to facilitate a smooth opening, to ensure that operating cash is not an issue, and that the facility is equipped to deliver the school program on opening day should the need arise. The reliance on loans is predicated on sufficient enrollment to generate state funds and furthers the Scpcsc's recommendation on conditional approval based on the applicant meeting its projected enrollment. An initial facility plan has been identified, as well as a backup facility option. The primary plan meets the school's basic requirements at its maximum enrollment. The planning committee will be receiving support from Alliance Education Services. The final Scpcsc conclusion: the Fort Mill Academy conditional approval is based on the lack of clear evidence of demand and possible inability to meet first-year enrollment targets. Final approval will be contingent upon the school's ability to meet the following enrollment pre-opening condition criteria on or before the due dates. Due April 15th, 2023, provide evidence that 50% of the projected fall enrollment has been met, including names, addresses, grades, and prior schools attended. Due June 1st, 2023, provide evidence that 75% of the projected fall enrollment has been met, including names, addresses, grades, and prior schools attended. In alignment with Section 59-40-60F of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act, the review team assessed the required components of the Fort Mill Academy application, bringing emphasis into its review, the identification of specific the target population, the research-based evidence that the proposed program would meet the identified needs of the target population, and the school's overall capacity. Based on the thorough analyses, the Scpcsc team has determined that Fort Mill Academy, conditionally based on enrollment targets, has the capacity to sufficiently implement the aligned program with a likelihood of success. Overall, the applicant provided sufficient evidence that all key factors are in place for the successful establishment of a new school. Is there public comment? Okay. There is a public comment? Okay. Okay, I will hear you right here. Fort Mill Academy ready to begin its 15 minutes?
My name is Kevin Arrowwood. I'm chairman of the board. Thank you for your time and your commitment to your board. We're excited personally as a committee, as a board. Some people started this process 4 years ago, and I've been on part of the process for 2 years. And during that time, what we've learned is really culminated into now. And we're excited that we have a good plan. We're excited that we have good facility options. We're excited that we have a good debt servicing program available to us. We're excited about a budget, a strong budget. We feel that there is a need in the community. There's a need to fill performance gaps. There's a need due to overcrowding, which is a big issue in the Fort Mill community, where people buy a home and they can't go to the school district that was originally designed for that neighborhood. So in addition to the need, we're excited about the confidence of our board, who our board has become over the last few years, the ownership of the process, where when we first began a few years ago, it was more people writing a application for us and us just trying to figure, in essence, putting in a good face. And so this year, I've seen our board members take deep ownership of the process and a good understanding of what exactly our business plan is and how we'll execute it. So you're going to hear from each one of our board members. We're going to be delegated the next 15 minutes out into a few minute sessions where you're going to hear from a board member and they're going to address the different aspects of our application and our process. We appreciate the concerns addressed by the district on will we be able to meet enrollment needs. But we're also confident we will meet those needs due to the needs in the community, the support we've received and interest we've received so far. And our budget was built based on no grants, no private money. It was just on local, federal, and state funding. And our budget is operational at 75% capacity, which was the estimate that recommended for conditional approval by June 20 something. I don't know the exact date, prior to enrollment beginning. With that being said, I'm going to transition to Karina. Karina is the original founding board member. And she can tell you about herself, the community, the need, and the process up until now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Karina Kansas, and as Kevin just mentioned, I am the original founding board member. Started this process nearly 5 years ago, and I was new to the Fort Mill area myself, and was a bit disappointed at some of the things that were going on in the community for my own family, the overcrowding, rezoning, lack of school choice. So when I met Jennifer Lucas and Justin Matthews at AES and learned about what they do and did and have done in the past, I was very excited about that opportunity for our own community. So formed our group nearly 5 years ago and have evolved in that process. Professionally, I'm a territory manager for a furniture manufacturer. And I work with schools every day. Oh yeah, sorry, we forgot to guide you. My bad. Next slide, please. Sorry about that. We'll get it right. We only have 4 slides, so it's gonna be okay. So yes, as I mentioned, I work with a furniture manufacturer, and I work with schools every day around creating learning spaces that truly impact and help achieve meaningful teaching and learning within those schools. I'm a mother of 2 boys and a Fort Mill community member myself. So with that, I would like to pass it to Barry Black to come on up and introduce himself.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Barry Black, and I've been in education for 40 years. Spent about half of that time in the classroom, and then the other half as an assistant principal and principal. The last day that I left the school and I retired, it was a sad day in my life. I didn't turn off the light, I didn't close the door, I didn't want anything to stop me from being involved in education. I had a calling approximately 4+ years ago, and the calling said that a school was needed in Fort Mill. And I was one of the founding members. I want to make sure that the students and the parents in the community have the ability to have a choice and not have to be placed in a particular school or whatever, just a choice to do what they have to do so that they don't fall through the cracks. And I feel that we're the school that's going to help them get there. I'd like to introduce Chris Black, who's also another member of the family committee.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Chris Black, and I have been a principal of an immersion school and and I developed the first immersion school in the Broward County School District in the state of Florida. So I have had a lot of experience going from ground zero to a school that parents were actually clamoring to get into. I was a public school, and they went to the school board and they asked their board to transfer their children to my school because I was the only one that had the immersion program in the county. So that led to the impetus, and that was back in 2005, by the way. So I've had a lot of experience developing and growing the program. Here in the Carolinas, I was also the principal of an immersion school in North Carolina, and that experience was fabulous. I'm still in touch, I'm retired. I'm still in touch with those teachers, and the school is up and running. My school in Broward County is growing, up and running. Fort Mill does need a school of choice. The parents have seen what one school did in Rock Hill. It's an elementary school. It does have an immersion program in French and Spanish. The parents have put their names on waiting lists to get into that school. And Rock Hill is not really where they want to be. They want to stay in Fort Mill. That's where their home is. That's where their friends are. That's where the children's friends are. But yet they see that Fort Mill does not offer any type of immersion program. So that is where we come in. We are going to grow the program, and I know it seems that our numbers may not get there. I can tell you our numbers are going to go beyond. So I am very confident that this school is going to do exactly what it's intended to do, give parents a choice, give students a way of excelling in the foreign language field, and give parents a reason to not go outside of Fort Mill to look for that education. Thank you. Danielle Lennon is up next.
Greetings, board, and thank you so much for your time. My name is Danielle Lennon, and I currently work as the secondary social studies specialist for Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. It's been a very interesting year. I'm a Fort Mill community member. My kids attend school in Fort Mill. I was the 2015 District Teacher of the Year and have almost 20 years of teaching experience, and will be providing the board with consultative and suggestions on curriculum, staffing, and other programs. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Abbey. I've been a Fort Mill resident for 5 years. I have 2 boys currently in the school district. And I just want to keep it short and sweet and leave an unsolicited quote by a parent who does not know about this school or did not know because she's new. And to the community, she said, just the sheer fact that Fort Mill School District doesn't have language options blows my mind. Language, starting in kindergarten, is at least a 20-year-old concept. And that is what we're trying to feed to these parents in this meeting. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is George Gennaro. I'm a civil engineer, licensed in the state of South Carolina. I bring experience in site development and review of the Fort Mill impact fee analysis, which definitely will be in Fort Mill, which we will comply with. As far as facilities is involved, we do have a property identified, and upon this approval, I'm ready to coordinate with the town of Fort Mill, OSF, SCDOT, and get the ball rolling on the existing site that we will be redeveloping. Thank you.
The Fort Mill Academy is designed to empower student learning through differentiated instruction and enable all students to become bilingual. FMA is a K-8 education program that utilizes the workshop model for improved learning outcomes for all students, with an additional program focus on integrating world language acquisition into the elected offerings.
What makes Fort Mill Academy very different is the workshop model. And what I'm excited about, it starts along with the research-based practice of I do, you do, we do. But the we provides a very unique experience. Instead of just a kind of stage on the stage and one-way facilitation, the workshop model requires that every teacher provides students with the opportunity to collaborate in their classes and stations every day. This is not just work with a partner, this is a concerted effort for collaborative classrooms and growing learning experiences. The students will practice at their own level. This is best for acceleration, also best practice for remediation when needed. Students are assessed for growth and progress towards mastery with these smaller groups. You're able to easily progress monitor and adjust your teaching and instructional strategies and practices that benefit that student. Currently, Fort Mill, that is not an option due to a lot of the overload the classroom is being crowded, and it is very difficult to serve all students. The learning gap is large between students that are of color and students that have IEPs and other special needs. So that's where Fort Mill kind of bridges the gap with the workshop model.
The one thing we are going to be different with the immersion model, we want our students to be successful in their test scores and their skill level. So we are not going to have an immersion program in the English, Math, Social Studies, Science area, but rather in the elective programs. So therefore, they are going to have an hour and a half a day in one of their electives where they will learn the foreign language simply by living it and hearing it from their teachers. So their test scores will not be impacted because they will have all of their English, Math, Social Studies, and Science taught in their English language. So this will bridge all gaps in all of the classes so that the students will be able to become fluent in their language, which is Spanish for this year, and still be able to acquire all the skill levels in their major subjects.
The time is really now. This process has been nearly 5 years in the making. We have been developing this vision and this mission based on community need, based on the exponential growth that Fort Mill is experiencing, based on the lack of school choice, based on really needing a differentiated approach and a language focus as part of the curriculum. We've been building this vision and mission with the community, with their input, and it has evolved over these years, and the time is now to bring this to the community. Collectively, we've heard from our board, very high level, very briefly, but we have over 100 years experience in education, and we feel confident that collectively, with the community, we can really bring this vision to life and give Fort Mill the school that it needs. Thank you. Next slide.
Yes, we have. How much time do you have left? 1 minute. Okay. Yeah, so just for the brief moment that's left, the main thing that I want to communicate and make sure that you as the board understand is what has impressed me most is our collective cohesion as a founding board and the ownership of the process. It feels like this is our thing, but we feel like we're partnering with a CMO pushing something on us, or this is their education model or their program, and it's a plug and play. I appreciate that the most from our board just in this last year. I think the district probably exceeded that and picked that up in the review process. And so we're grateful for that, and we're going to close our time and open for questions. Thank you.
Right now, we'll come to the board for their questions, and just to keep the guests on the start of this. But I'll go ahead.
Morning. Thank you so much for coming before us. Appreciate the presentation. I do have 2 quick questions for you. Number one, it was noted that the fees from the CSO are going to be like 6%. CSO, what services are included
their consulting fees, which helps us with recruiting, the board structure, board formation early on. They're in the front end, a big part of our application is the debt service model. We can go, we've always required $20 million bond over a 20-year term. That's not possible without them backing their capital. To the bond market, to the relationships with capital and with the capital markets. That's a big aspect. There's partnerships they already have in place with transportation programs. And I wasn't great terminology with the restaurant. Cafeteria food services, relationships like that, et cetera. So all that is included. So they are a true partner. The relationship with AES, they don't have ownership in the facility. They don't have ownership of the land. The board owns that. That relationship with AES was, we have the right to terminate that in accordance with the performance service contract. So there's no equity, there's no ownership in the process on that. And they also have a list of professional development as well.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Comments to the last of the meeting board and transportation and evaluate we kind of talk about what transportation plans you guys are.
Yes. You want to do that with your
that's okay.
Good morning. My name is Justin Matthews. I'm the CEO of Alliance Education Services. We're a 501c3 preferred charter support organization, and we're happy to work with Fort Mill here. I really appreciate what you say. Alliance only works with certain school boards. That's a real community board, by the way. I think you can tell. And so our place in the market is really to bridge the two types of schools that we find. You have mom and pop schools, and then you have schools that are supported by a large scale DMOs, CMOs. And so we really like to bridge that area where you want to have a true local board, but they need the infrastructure and supportive expertise in the field, and we bring that. Our schools that we incubate nationally must emulate true public schools. So it's a full continuum of services, NSLP, transportation, special education, and supported services. So we have connections with schools and transportation programs in the greater Charlotte area. We run not only North Carolina buses, but South Carolina buses. We have 3 schools we've integrated in the greater Charlotte area. And we already have contracts to run that. What we'd like to do is to provide transportation to approximately 40 to 60% of the overall population. And we run routes that cover between 2 to 10 miles from the geographic radius from the school, and that was contemplated in the school's budget. Over time, we prefer that the schools actually purchase their own buses and run those internal as part of their overall program. This is one of the services that we provide as part of that fee structure for the first 5 years as well.
Thank you so much, and for the local company community board, we want to express my appreciation for all the work you've done. I'm just excited to see you back against that. So thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for your presentation. I just have a question that could be 2 parts. You mentioned your lottery process as being sound, and we know that there are some schools that suffer with that. What makes the lottery process effective for your group, and what staffing plans do you have to recruit high-quality staff?
It would be essential for us to have the lottery process for Fort Mill, because we know that, I know you are concerned with our enrollment. Of course, if we have only 400 come to the school, everybody is in. But if we have that 525th student, then we have to go to lottery, and we have to give everybody an equal and fair opportunity to get a seat in the school. Can you just repeat the other part of your question?
The staffing, how do you plan to recruit high-quality teachers and diverse staff as well?
Yes. Our staffing is going to be, from everywhere, where we're going to advertise, we're going to market. We want all of our teachers to be certified. I know that we can have a certain percentage that are not certified. My personal choice in the board is to definitely have everyone certified in the subject area that they will teach. So we will market the school. As a matter of fact, we have had people hearing about our school, and teachers have already sent us resumes. They want to come to our school. We have had people asking, do you have a principal yet? We do not, but we have resumes. So we really won't have to do too much work. We already have resumes coming into us that are asking about our school and wanting to come to us. Did I answer your question?
Yes, except the part about the lottery system. So you're saying that you will probably just take whoever comes first?
Well, not whoever comes first, no.
You said the first 500 because you probably,
I'm sorry. If we only have, if you're concerned with our enrollment, so let's use the number 300. We only have 300 students apply. All 300 get in, excuse me. Because there's not another one, but I don't see that happening in our school. As I said previously, the demand for a school with a language choice is so great in this area. And not just in Fort Mill, but as I mentioned, Rock Hill only has one school that offers choice of a language. Those parents are on a waiting list. When they hear that there's another school opening with that type of curriculum, they're going to come to us. There are parents moving into the communities. They can't go to the school that their house is situated in, and they're not happy. Their children have to be bused to other schools. So our school is the building that we have. Oh, okay, good. I'm going to turn you.
Okay.
So ask your question.
I'll follow up on lottery. So lottery is only used in case we have too many people, which is going to be a great problem to have. So lottery is only used once we say we cannot take people at all. We take the whole group of people, we put them in a random internet-based drawing system, and then they will come out individually. It's not on a first come, first served.
okay, so you don't have a system in place that would allow for a population that mirrors the community? No, I'm asking about how you make sure the school is staffed to represent the makeup of the community. Not staff, but the school is made up of that. Because I've heard some schools say that they have trouble with the lottery system that's used. And you all said it was sound, so I was wondering what was different about it.
Yeah, I can help a little bit on that. I'm Jennifer Lucas, and I'm the other partner of Alliance Education Services. So we do have a well-established application and lottery system. So that's one part of what your question is, to make sure that it is a blind lottery, it's a fair lottery. We'll open up a specific application window where everybody applies for a seat and publish a lottery date for what those results are. But as far as your question goes, which I think is about mirroring demographics or reaching the demographics, that really goes to what the marketing and outreach campaign is.
Mm-hmm.
So our brochures and written publications are done in English and Spanish to make sure that we're reaching into the Spanish community. We've had a lot of that at the local parent sessions of multilingual families very interested in the language component. And we are doing a targeted zip code postcard drop to ensure that we're reaching out to the communities that have come to us. Those include, I think, Indian Land, parts of Rock Hill, areas adjacent to Fort Mill to make sure that they have equal access to this program. So I think it's not just the lottery, your question, but it's so much as having like targeted marketing to make sure that we reach out to those families. A lot of that is in the apartment communities that surround Fort Mill as well. So I think that those two plans together work together to make sure that we're reaching the diverse student population that we intend to serve.
Okay, thank you.
I want to applaud your group for your 5-year effort to launch this academy. It's very impressive because I'm sure when you started, your children may have been younger. Now they're 5 years older, and maybe that's not a grade for them. So I just applaud that effort. I want to thank everyone who presented. I really also applaud the quality of individuals and the experience of your board. I'm a business person. If you were a vendor, it wouldn't take me long take long to convince me to buy something from you. So really the only question that I have is, we talked about briefly a loan. I'm curious about what you think might be the amount of the loan and then the terms of repayment.
Part of that is going to be, so we have two facilities that we're looking at right now. One is a current facility, which is just an update construction. Another would be personal land and new construction. So depending on what exactly, once we get official approval, we're evaluating those options. Once we secure that, and that will impact the terms, in terms of the amount on the land. Another thing that I'm not sure, I want to make sure you're aware of, what we have budgeted in the capital plan is all of our furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that will also all be included in that as well. So just you can get into the details in the capital market. Sure.
Yeah, I think if you asked that question 5 years ago, we would have to give you a forecast. We have the luxury of walking SCD folks to an actual real building that was financed in the exact same means as One Enrollment Academy will be, just on the other side of North Carolina. And so the trick is to access tax-free municipal bond dollars for charter schools that don't have access to capital funds through conventional means, referendum millage, additional mills on the tax rolls. And so you're really paying for your facility and operating dollars. That's always been the difficulty of getting a permanent facility. Over the past several years, the market has changed so much, and people recognize the value and need for charter schools. And so the funding model has drastically shifted in favor of new startups and standalone startups. So in the application, there is an offer on the table from a national charter school finance group specializes in low interest tax-free municipal bonds, which is the lowest amount of financing that a charter school could achieve without some sort of state support. And so that's really the key for any successful charter school, is to be able to have that facility debt really be in that sweet spot, that 15% plus or minus of the overall budget. So all that's contemplated in our application, but this one was special because we waited enough time, 5 years, that one of the models that we incubated a few years ago, we actually got to see come out of the ground. And so that's kind of what makes this interesting for this group. They got to walk the facility on the board side as well as your all side.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for your persistence.
So can you tell me how close are you to your enrollment
Targets now.
Do you have the number from how close you are
Today.
We have not been able to take enrollments because we're not an official school. So we have been telling everybody, please wait, please wait. Right now, we have 764 families waiting.
Okay,
So,
that's what I was looking for. That's what I really was asking.
764, and we posted last week that, hey, we're through the first round, come to the second, and the amount of messages we got, I had to have somebody help me get it through them all. So everyone is literally just hanging out waiting for us.
And so related to that, would all of them go in the lottery, or would it only be above a certain number that would go in the lottery?
It would be above a number, so we would have to hit a certain number and then we would hit the lottery.
Okay.
I missed the
all those in the lottery. So we're having a lottery.
Right, okay.
What I think others were alluding to is within that lottery, let's say, 500, submit to the lottery, they all will get in because they could potentially then fill that enrollment, and then the lottery is quote unquote null and void, but there is a lottery.
That's a better way of explaining it than I did. Dr. Tucker, that is your question.
I still don't understand, if you get the numbers, say you fill up because you have 500, you don't look at the ones that you didn't get if you don't meet your demographics. So it's first come, first service, what I was trying
So
to.
basically what we would do to the public is we'd say, everybody's in the lottery. So then everyone would get in the lottery, and then we'd say, okay, your name got picked up until a certain amount of points. So.
Well, it's just,
That sounds like what you're saying.
Yeah, no, well.
Okay.
It's good, if I can-
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just if I can, like, there's two issues we need to address, correct? One issue is we need a school that reflects the demographics of the community. And your questioning is going to that essence.
Right.
The other aspect we have to look at is we have to have enough people, enough pupils to have enough funding to pay for teachers to have a school to exist that will represent the community. Okay? So we recognize that there's a balance on both of those issues, but, we have to prioritize getting people there. So that's why we interpret your question really as a marketing issue. If we are driving our marketing efforts at the parts of the community that are reflective of the demographics, within the lottery, it should work. But ultimately, if we have only, if we're short on our demographics, we don't want to turn, or short on our enrollment, we don't want to turn people away because then we can't have a school that functions financially. So the leadership of our board has to balance the tension of both of those. And we have to balance that, equally. And that's the question that we would have to wrestle with and go forward. I hope that helps clarify.
It does. So in the application,
There's discussion of the assessment.
you intend to use.
MAC, or do you have another test?
Okay, so that came up in the interview with the district, and we threw all those in the application because it's kind of like, we don't care, we'll use whatever. Our question back to the district in the capacity interview was like, do you have a preference? Which one do you want us to use? We're fine with either.
Okay.
So,
In the.
some philosophies are you should have multiple tests that have different, measured from multiple perspectives and angles. Other people like we should do a single testing evaluation method. And we weren't sure what the district's opinion was.
In the conversation about Lucy Calkins leaving curriculum, can you describe what that conversation was and how you answered the district's question about whether or not that would be the best curriculum to use?
Lucy Calkins, and I am well aware of some of the shortfalls that are in that curriculum based on reading. But it proves, research proves, and even with several schools that have piloted this program, that focus on writing and speaking and collaborative learning really do enhance and really walk side by side with growing the reading scores. So while we are adopting Lucy Calkins as kind of a roadmap, there still will be some autonomy of the principal and the teachers to serve the students and to serve the teachers where they're best needed and where they fit.
Thank you. Do you have a social studies and history curriculum for middle school picked out already?
Yes, we, in our community, we know for a fact that we've been Fort Mill for over 20 years now, that it's very important that we align with the schools. So we will be adopting the same curriculum that the state of South Carolina would have. It would be no different from what they would do as far as the curriculum, as far as use of books. The difference is not necessarily product, but process.
Okay, thank you. And just to be clear, the immersion is only in the electives. It's not in the, okay.
That's correct.
Okay. And that's all.
Cindy?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have several questions. First, I wanted to just comment on what you just said about articulation. And visiting several leader in these schools with Stephen Covey, it's just amazing the power of a child, how empowered they are when they are also comfortable articulating in front of a group and speaking out in addition to reading. It's a very powerful thing, so I applaud that. I have several quick questions. One is, I thought that in the capacity interview, maybe Dr. Black, did you refer to the school's perspective on language, on Spanish, as infusion as opposed to immersion? And it seems like I noticed that verbiage, and if it is infusion, in your whatever your appropriate definition is, how does the infusion in electives have testing so you have measurements of capacity and competency?
We're still going to use the American, the American, the teaching of foreign languages, we have the oral presentation and the written presentation. So those test scores will still be given through the elective classes. So it's art, music, it'll have PE. So any of those will still be given those assessments. So we will know whether or not the children are achieving their goals. We believe that within 5 years of continuous education at our school, our students will be fluent.
That's neat. That'd be a neat thing to see, to come at it from a different kind of perspective or direction. Also, I want to be sure I'm understanding the workshop model correctly, the outcome anticipated. Are you saying in the workshop model, as students cluster in smaller groups, you are thereby able to assess them individually more, they're maybe better individually. So you're using a small group for the purpose of individual advancement.
That's exactly right. When you're in a classroom of 20 some odd kids, any type of small grouping or getting the number down, you're able to notice the whiteboards or quick checks for understanding. It's easier for a teacher to target the gap or even down to the standard or the indicator that the student will struggle with. So thank you.
Good. Okay, that's great. Now, then the other thing I wanted to know is, I noticed, I think it's page, let me see this quick thing. In the interaction with the protocols for our district, there are, if I got this correct, there are ramifications if you don't meet your enrollment numbers within, day 10, and then we're doing counts when the school opens. So all that has been taken into consideration as you, as the applying school, consider that 554 number. It's a weighty thing, is what I'm trying to say. It's an important thing to think through that number, because I think once school starts, we're tracking that pretty strongly, if I have that correctly. The other thing, the last thing I wanted to ask about is on page 4 of the application, and in paragraph 3, it refers to two types of curriculum, the unique environmental education and the global character program. And I asked staff for a little bit of information on that. And so it looks like, well, first of all, I appreciate a lot of the verbiage, the way it's described. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of strong, great themes and concepts in there. You do not have the curriculum exactly yet, is that correct? For both the character and the global character and the environmental.
Hi, this is Jennifer. Actually, Lucy Calkins has added into her units of study a social and emotional piece of language, and also diversity and inclusion. So it's actually built through additional units of study. And so it is in addition to the regular program, the students have it throughout the course of the day. And again, for us, we feel like it needs to be interwoven, not taught independently for 15 minutes someplace and then you go away and forget about it. And so a lot of the text selections have changed over the years that show, represent all students and all, different lifestyles and cultures.
So it's actually woven into the Unisys study, but they have a separate component that is actually what we are looking at there.
So let me ask you about this, because, as things are going on in the country based on those issues, when it says age appropriate lessons, I mean, would I just want to be forthright or open in saying, I guess I would, at some point, I don't know if you were into the interview of the previous school, but I am going to be for transparency, because we're a public institution, and transparency for parents, prospective parents, and for the public. So I am for putting our curriculums in schools of choice online, so parents and the public have access to those as they make decisions about their children and that sort of thing. So you can understand with everything that's going on in the country, what age appropriate is a very important thing, but it's important to know what that even means, because people think that it means this for this person, this for that person. So I'm hoping that there will soon be, we will take up that issue as a board. I hope, I'm just speaking as an individual on that, because we don't know what it means until we see the actual words. So that would go for any school. So what you're relating to me is you do have some specific intentionality with regards to Lucy, the Lucy Calkins program. So that's where we would generally find these, the character and the environmental education piece.
Yeah, and I agree with what you say on the transparency. I think all of our parent sessions and PowerPoints listed all of the curriculum so that parents could understand and expect what that would look like. And we will build on the website. I mean, this is, I found this as a parent, but also as a principal. You do need parents to know what's happening, and they need to be able to support it at home. And most of the items that we have the parent resources in order for them to help. So we want our parents to know what their children are doing and actually participate and partner with us and be able to help. So I think that once we are up and going, you'll see on the website a listing of the curriculum and then parent access to that curriculum as well.
That is so great. I applaud that very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I've just got a couple of quick questions. I want to harken back to Randy's question about the transportation. I know you're right there on the North Carolina line, but you indicated an agreement or cooperation with North Carolina buses. How does that translate into South Carolina? Or maybe I missed something. Is there an agreement, or is it a North Carolina bus company, or is it North Carolina public school buses? Or explain that to me.
I completely understand. It was more of an example. The school has relationships with a licensed provider, and Fort Mills, the veteran community of Greater Charlotte area, started off that way. So that's one of the ways that we were just demonstrating that the school has the resources to be able to effectuate a transportation company. That company would have South Carolina licensed drivers and South Carolina school buses.
Okay.
That would be something that the board would, as part of their contract, ensure that was a South Carolina SCDOT approved bus.
Okay, all right. I thought so. I just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, we couldn't help but illustrate that we do have that capacity as a standalone school right out of the gate to be able to provide that on day one, year one, which I think we all agree is important for access.
That area obviously moving because of the Mecklenburg area, and it's just creepy. It's like kudzu everywhere. Personally, I don't think you're going to have issues with students. The 554 in your first year, that's a lot of students. What's your break-even point? How many students do you absolutely have to have in order to make your numbers work?
It's like 390 something. It's our break-even. I ran the math on the budget, and it was like we could carry all of
Can you just so that you can get on record? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I ran the math on the budget, and once we get it's below 398, that's when we're having to look at like, okay, what can we do without janitorial services? What can we start cutting?
That was my next question.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Justin and I actually, one night ran I'm just gonna call it worst case scenario model. And it was like, well, actually we did that when we were prepping for the capacity interview, because we were like, hey, this might be we call it the practice thing that they just maybe do. So we were prepping through there, and it was like, so at 398, everything's good. We just hire less teachers. Okay. Below 398 kids, that's when we're getting a situation where like, okay, can we cut janitorial services? What can we cut here? And we came down to, I think we got down to like 305, 310, before it was like, this is a dire situation where it may not be financially viable at that number when we ran those scenarios. So.
And I have a reason for asking that. It's just not an academic question. It's not a financial question. It's a real question. We've had schools that have gone below their break-even point, and they've had to make some serious, had serious discussions. We've actually had to help some of these schools.
Yeah.
And we're not in the business of doing that. So I want to make sure that you can function and what happens if.
Absolutely. And one of the examples, and Justin, if you want to come up, one of the examples was Justin said, if we get in a situation like this, there's access we can lean on to from AES, line of credit, things like that.
Yeah. Part of the incubation is we provide a guarantee on their bond debt, and we provide short-term cash bridges, and Alliance is our fee structures that relaxed out of the school's accounts payable. And so those are all completely separate from the break-even. So these are the serious stopgap measures. And that's just from a function of doing this for 25 years, operating these schools, and watching schools really struggle if they don't hit their enrollment targets. But to your point, this is a school that, whether it's year one or year two, it's going to be full of kids. And so having some of those additional measures just adds to the viability of the school, especially in the first 3 years. So you're talking about, an additional several $100,000 of additional means beyond the lowest break-even point that Kevin mentioned. And that's all part of the application.
Is that a loan or is that a gift?
Those are gifts. Those are forgivenesses.
Okay. I heard the term line of credit earlier. Who takes out the line of credit? Are they the committee members or the board members?
The goal would be, so in the operating budget or the application in our operating budget, there is no line of credit that is already on there. I use that terminology because I'm thinking, just I talked about him saying, if we got in a situation like this, AES could, give us and I just, right there use the term line of credit, but the proper term would be.
Yeah. Well, put it back on the record. First off, the board members for any school that we support are never, ever on the hook, are not guarantors or anything. The school owns the property, the school owns all assets. Alliance as a C3 is, our position is facilitating and support. That being said, we're positioned in the market to offer our credit. And so we are the ones that are on the hook for those lines of credit. And we offer that credit to the school that doesn't have credit because they don't exist until that first kid shows up on the first day and they get that revenue. So that's one of the services that we provide, is that bridge. Without Alliance, if you go into the market for pre-development funding, you're at double digits. Okay, so that's, anybody who's been doing this for a while knows that those are backbreakers. And those actually restrict the long-term efficacy of the school. So Alliance is positioned in the market to provide all of the benefits of working with one of the larger companies, but none of the risks. And so that's really, when we look at our schools, and again, they got to walk around there, you see all the evidence of that. And it's just a huge benefit to getting the school up and running as early as possible at 100% accuracy, which is the goal.
Okay. Just another question. But on the specific board governance, who would be your first seated board? Are your committee members all going to come over? Are you going to have elections? Tell me about your governance.
Yeah, so our plan is for myself, Danielle, and Chris to transition to the governing board, and and then we would hold elections. Some of our current founding board members may choose to throw their hats in the nominations to roll onto the board. And then we're going to recruit some new people from the community as well.
Okay. Does AES have any influence over the board or any of the elections?
No, their only influence is just in relationship, but they have no control over, we've developed a relationship with AES. That is, unavoidable. That's the relationship, the only influence they have. As far as suggesting people or bringing someone to us, that's all driven by the board of who we need to recruit and bring onto our future governing body.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I need a motion.
Second.
That's quick.
Okay, I move that we approve the staff recommendation for conditional improvement for Fort Mill Academy.
And Cindy second. Cindy, do you still second?
I have not changed my mind.
All right, so we have a motion to accept the staff recommendation for conditional approval. Is there any board discussion? Having none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 None opposed. Congratulations.
Well, yes. Congratulations. I love the perseverance. All right, well, let's get further. All right. We waited a year just for the right. I just didn't hear We'll celebrate online.
How does this work? I'll keep going in the back.
Left over right. Left over right. Tell me the back. You get closer? Yep. Tighten up a little bit.
You see everybody?
Got it. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Good work.
Thank you.
We'll have a workshop.
We got a lot of practice.
Steps are also hard to see.
Yeah, we're excited to work with you guys, Chris. I mean, I've worked this over the last year. I think a year ago, I didn't really have a great understanding of it. I thought that's something that I really come to understand in the last year. Y'all have a good rest of the day.
All right, take care. You have stuff for lunch?
Thank you.
We're hitting. 12:45, an hour. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break so everyone can stretch their legs.
We can stop for 10-minute break.